Okay, so let's talk about your path in personal development.
Okay.
Right? Let's talk a little bit about where you came to, and then talk about what you discovered in this and how it contrasts to those things.
Yeah. So I did started my personal development journey in my early mid 30s time frame. It took me a while to kind of discover some programs that really resonated with me, and that was really the first time I started doing some, personal growth, looking at where do I want to improve, what goals do I want to achieve, and
What were some of the programs that you discovered?
so I worked with PSI seminars and went through all of their courses.
No, I mean,
Oh,
like the internal.
oh,
Programs.
internal programs. Oh, those programs. Yeah. So some of the things I discovered about myself is that I really didn't value relationships as much. I tended to be very transactional. I certainly was closed off emotionally for a variety of different reasons. I did not have many female relationships whatsoever. I had decided that I wouldn't be a great mother, so I never wanted to be a great mother. I had made up the fact that I had to work 70, 80 hours a week to justify what I would earn because that's what I saw and learned, and so that's how I valued myself. And so probably a lot of it culminated to just a lower self-esteem and a lower self-worth than I even thought I had until I really started discovering myself, and then realizing that the decisions I made was all based on a low self-worth, lower self-esteem that I wanted, quite frankly.
So from those past programs,
Mm-hmm.
you developed the awareness from them.
Yeah.
Did you develop a breakthrough?
I think I had a couple of breakthroughs. I think one of the most significant ones was how I valued and saw myself, being a mom and then being an influence to other kids. And so I broke through this thought process that I never wanted to be one. And it turns out I really did. And so adopting my children was as a result of doing some of that work. I definitely saw myself getting more confident in who I was, and I was able to even be confident articulating what I believed in, whereas before I'd really kind of shy away and not necessarily want to share any of that, right? And so I think I had a few of those breakthroughs, but it took a while. It took years and years and years to get there, for sure. Probably over a decade.
Good.
Yeah.
And so talk about how this is different than that.
This was incredibly fascinating to me. So as part of that decade plus work that I did, I kind of really wanted to learn how the brain worked, and especially adopting older international children, I wanted to know what were they coming with. And so when I worked with Alma, I couldn't believe that we could get to my subconscious limiting thoughts and beliefs without taking hours and hours or days and days or weeks and weeks of courses. Like, we could do this within a half an hour, and then even more shocking was we could rewire that belief to a more positive belief within minutes, which again, I feel like the 10 years of work I did, we did in about 6 weeks or 8 weeks working with Alma. And so that to me was just mind-blowing. And then the second thing was how easily adaptable and relatable it was to my kids, because the work I had done, I had to figure out, how do I make this kid friendly, to teach them tools and techniques to grow their self-confidence and their self-esteem. And Alma's techniques are, they work for kids and they work for parents and they work for non-parents, and it's just amazing to me. I was totally awestruck by it.
And what's it going to be like for your kids now? I mean, what would it have been like, and what's it going to be like now?
I think what it would have been like would have been a constant mom is giving you advice and feedback on what to do and maybe how to deal with things, and instead they learned it for themselves, and they really I don't know if we've rewired them, but they've really kind of had to participate in their growth. And so, I don't care. We as parents often tell our kids what to do, but they really, I don't think, listen most of the time. It's only when they experience it for themselves that I think it's going to be lasting. And so before, I just feel like this huge relief that, wow, I don't have to be the one that has the burden of sharing and teaching my children. Alma can come in with her techniques and her programs and let my kids experience it for themselves, and hopefully, as a result, instantly, do things better or more productively. Whether it's behaviorally, whether it's how they deal with stress, whether it's how they react to certain situations. I think they really have a better handle on that now.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So start with the phrase, I've adopted 2 kids from wherever.
Okay.
And then talk about what programs you feel like they may have brought in based on your experience of them, and the transformation that you've experienced has occurred.
Okay. So I adopted 2 kids from India. My daughter was 2.5. She's now 10. And then my son is, he was 5 and he's now 7. And so I would say that my daughter came here with a very low self-esteem already at 2.5. I know it's hard to believe, how do you know? But she wasn't talking. She couldn't look you in the eyes. She couldn't ask for anything she wanted, even with learning a little bit of sign language. It was always looking at the floor. She couldn't be apart from my husband for a minute without completely panicking and having anxiety. And so, there's just a lot of trauma that came from being, in orphanage care her entire life. And so I knew that was going to be something that I had to work with her on. And the techniques I had learned in other programs, I tried to do that. And I knew that it would take years and years and years to do that. And I could see it working because I was fairly consistent. So, at 7 or 8, I could see her confidence starting to finally bloom. And, she's still, hesitant around making decisions on her own without asking for permission all the time. And once we started working with Alma, it's like something just snapped in her. Like she's so much more, I know what I want. I'm independent. I can make decisions without, all of the rebellion and argument. It's just this incredible confidence that got, even more rooted in her, to where she feels she shares stuff with me that she never shared with me before, because she's not afraid of how, it would come out or what it would look like. So I just feel like with Alma, we've, again, just accelerated her confidence tremendously. And then with my son, interestingly enough, he came with a tremendous amount of confidence. But what was probably lacking with him is, I don't think that he felt like he belonged. He was in an orphanage for 5 years, right? And so kids came in and out, workers came in and out. There was, a lot of that transition. And what we worked with him on and with Alma on is that, he's part of our family. He belongs. This is really where he's going to be. And, from an attachment perspective, I think that's really solidified in some of the work that we've done, because it could take 3, 4, 5, 6. There's no real time frame on when kids attached. We've only had him a couple of years, and I could see a difference in the last couple of months where even with me, he feels so much closer, than he did before. So.
Okay, so continuing with that line of thought, if I was going to edit this
Yeah.
conversation together without my voice in there.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, like, if we would have done this work,
Yeah.
and they would have grown up, they would have had, what would it have been, what do you project it could have been like for them? And now, because we've done this work, now I know that this is going to happen.
Yeah. If we wouldn't have done this work, I truly feared that I would have to be with my kids in some capacity, mothering them for a long, long, long time, well past into adulthood, if that makes sense. My fear was that they weren't going to be independent kids. They would be well adjusted, they would be functioning, that's not the issue. My fear was just that they were being raised, partly because of me, partly because of where they came from, to be really codependent, quite frankly. And so as a result of doing this work, I literally have like this huge monkey off my back. I feel like I'm 10 pounds lighter. I'm relieved that I know that they feel confident now, more confident in who they are. And again, that's weird to say, right, for a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, but you can tell. Moms that are in tune with their kids can tell when they're acting different, when behaviorally they're more confident and they're stronger and they're more firm in what they believe in. And that's, I think, what every parent wants for their kids. And I truly fear that that's not where we were heading.
Good. Okay. Let's switch the conversation to
Mm-hmm.
And like, what do you see has opened up as a possibility as a result of doing this work now?
Wow. For me personally, I think that my relationships are going to get even deeper and more, what's the word? We're stronger. Number one. And why I think that is because the personal development work that I did, what I discovered was I really did a good job of figuring out how to avoid reacting to certain situations versus truly dealing with them. And with Alma, we dealt with them. We uncovered them again, and we had to, kind of rework and work through them. And it's got me not avoiding relationships. It's got me not avoiding people anymore. I don't mind family members that, maybe I struggled with now, being close and being part of a, something that's more tight-knit than it was before. My relationship with my husband's even, deeper. We've been married 20 years nearly, 18 years together, 20. And so you have to, I think, constantly look at how you reinvent your communications and your relationship. And this work, because we did it together, strengthened our relationship. It strengthened how we raise our children together. We're definitely more on the same page as a result of doing this. So I think that's the biggest thing for me. And then financially, I have no problem. Maybe there was definitely some hesitation and skepticism still on my self-worth and value. And I know that that's, only gotten better as a result of this. Spiritually, I feel more grounded than ever. I feel like there's a lot more peace, even though life continues to change and things happen in my life. And it just, I think that if we only have one life to live, I feel like I'm getting better at it, having done this.
You know how we rewire for
Yeah.
specific beliefs, like I'm not enough or whatever.
Yeah.
What did you find that you thought either that you realized you were weak in and
Mm-hmm.
and it got like super strong, or you thought you were good in and you
Mm-hmm.
found out you weren't, and you corrected that and it kind of changed. What was that experience like? Specifically, like
Yeah,
specific.
no, I know. Yeah, I discovered that I did not believe I was a good person. So I volunteer quite a bit. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, whatever. I had no idea that fundamentally, deep down inside, I did not believe that I was a good person. So I overcompensated. And I overcompensated probably by taking on too much and doing too many things and setting, expectations, whether it was on me or my kids or my husband or whatever. And I couldn't believe that as a result of doing this work that was so true. And when I discovered that, it hit home like, a ton of bricks had landed on me. Like, yes, that's right. I did not believe I was a good person. And so that has impacted just, again, my self-esteem, my value, my self-worth, how I even interact with my kids. It's like all of that was truly amazing to understand. And then rewiring to really believe that I am a good person, again, allows me to make decisions and approach things without wondering what people are going to think, or are they going to think I'm a mean person, or, that I'm not, trying to help them out, whatever it is. It was pretty intense, pretty awesome.
So, is there a place that was stopping you? Or is it just wasting your time because you were always
It's wasting a ton of time. Wasting a ton of time in guilt, a lot of time in guilt. Wasting a ton of time in avoidance, wasting a ton of time in, redoing things probably so that it was as good as I thought it needed to be. I would say that I probably found lots of hours in my day as a result of now knowing I am a good person. I really am a good person. And so when I decide I want to do things or not do things, it's not because I'm not. It's, it has nothing to do with that anymore. Yeah.
That's good. That's important.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have that. I had that too. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, big breakthrough there.
Had no idea. In all the years of personal development, never discovered that.
Right.
Right? It was the self-esteem, self-worth, but it was what's the root of all that? And that, is how with Alma we got deep into that to figure out, okay, I figured out how to deal with my low self-esteem and low self-worth through the work I did, but I never really understood where that came from. and what the root of it was, to just go, okay, I don't need anything to compensate around it. Let's just go deal with that.
Nice. Now, was there anything like you thought you had dealt with, but you found out you didn't, and you fixed it?
Oh, yes. In the first couple of weeks of doing this work, I really thought that I could deal with certain things that triggered me, certain behaviors in people. I was starting to get triggered all over again by surprises at work, by not having full control, by not being, able to be kind of in charge. I thought I dealt with all of my control issues, and it turns out I didn't. I just kind of put, cool little wrappers around it called avoidance, that when I wasn't in control or I wasn't in charge, I would just kind of divert over here or kind of, melt in the background, and that was my way of dealing with it. And so when we started working with Alma and it came up and certain situations come up because you're living life as you're doing this work, I literally thought I was going to lose it. And through rewiring with Alma, I realized that all I had done was put wrappers around all this stuff. And I had just figured out different lanes to travel in, to function without reacting. And what we did is we got to the root of a lot of that stuff.
So you put whipped cream on turkey?
Yeah, basically. I thought as long as I stay on the top with the whipped cream, I'm good. Exactly. Yes, you put whipped cream on a turd sandwich. Yes, that's exactly what I did. And Alma put it to me in a way that stuck with me, where she's like, all you've done is develop compensations. You've just figured out how to work around it. We didn't ever really tackle it. And I can see how that could be true, right? I mean, the work I did didn't really rewire me. It didn't really change my brain. It just trained me in the way of avoiding, making me aware. I shouldn't even say train, making me aware of what situations to avoid and not have to deal with. Yeah.
Like PLD, for example.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right? The basic, you become really aware of it.
Yeah.
And the Psi 7 even.
Yeah, absolutely.
Became really aware of it. And then in PLD, which is where you really got the work
Yeah.
done, they push you to get it done, and you find ways to get through it.
Right.
When it's all done, you're transformed in that you have a new experience now, but you're not transformed in that, oh, I got through that.
Right. It's
issue.
not permanent. It's almost like, and maybe some of it is. Maybe you feel strong. You do feel stronger, better, having done a lot of that work, like more confident because you feel like I didn't die, right? Having to ask someone for a job or more money, and you get all of that confidence built up because you know you didn't die from it. But until you get to the root of why that occurred, I feel like it's only going to come up in other places, right? It's not a permanent transformational effect in that you know with wholehearted confidence that you dealt with the root of why it was so scary to change jobs or to start a family in my case, or to go out on my own several years ago and do all of that. It probably veered its head in different ways all through my life, so yeah.
All right. What would you say to somebody that you would recommend this to?
Don't hesitate, in all honesty. Here's what I would say, whether you have something specific you want to work on and a goal or a fear, whatever it is, or whether there's maybe nothing you can think of at the moment, these techniques really get at the heart of our limiting beliefs, and we all have them. Every single one of us has created them through our life experiences, right, and who we were around. And so if there's even just a little bit of an interest to say, you know what, I would like to be a better person, just in general, or I would like to be a better speaker, or I would like to make more money. The reason we're not doing that today is because of our limiting beliefs. And so this really gets at the crux of it so quickly, quicker than anything I've ever experienced. So it's like, what do you have to lose other than your time, in all honesty? And money is, you'll make that up again, so,
and
yeah.
Then once you get to the crux of it, what happens?
And then you move forward. You don't ever look back. You don't ever think back. You don't even feel like those things come up again. And so you're just moving forward, making new decisions, kind of lighter. I feel, 10 pounds lighter. I feel like I'm floating almost in certain situations. So, yeah.
Yeah. You rewire it, and then your subconscious
It's exactly. It's
Yeah.
done. It's in there, and
You
it
can do it for
and
yourself.
consciously you can feel it. You know, your subconscious affects your consciousness, right? And so I can feel the work, and I can feel how much happier I am, how much lighter I am. My interactions with my kids are so less. They're just different. They're not as intense. They're more, engaging. It's more about now I understand my parental role, especially for a 10-year-old. She's only here for 8 more years potentially, right? I hope. But it's my job now to just let her go, and that all this work helped me kind of get to that too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
So.
okay. I think we're good.